Let's talk Miami Dolphins now here. Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Dolphins. What does the future hold here? Now, the report from the Miami Herald is that Fitzpatrick and the Dolphins are both going to explore their individual options, meaning Miami is going to look at other backup quarterbacks, potentially to back up behind Tua, and Fitzpatrick, well, he's probably looking for a bigger role, which I certainly understand at this stage in his NFL career. The door, though, is not shut on a potential return. So let's say hypothetically, nobody wants to give Fitzpatrick at least a shot to start, which I think is a bit unlikely. If that ends up being the case, though, he could come back to Miami. Now, when we saw him play last year, as convoluted as the cycle of Fitzpatrick is, where when he's a backup, he gets to play, he plays well, he gets named the starter, struggles, gets benched, then becomes the backup again and plays well. It's the cycle. He did pretty good for Miami. Pretty solid production. The QBR was pretty high. A little heavy on the turnovers, but he was in that high offense, passing-focused offense when he was playing. In reality, the playbook for Tua versus Fitzpatrick felt very different in terms of what was called. It was much more of a conservative offense for Tua. Fitzpatrick, as part of, especially the later half of the year, when he came in, it was time to sling it. That led to some difference there. And of course, if you're Miami, Tua's your guy next year. He is set to start for you. He's definitely going to start over Ryan Fitzpatrick. Because this stage in Fitzpatrick's career, it does not make sense to make him anything more than a stopgap starter. If a team like Washington can't get a quarterback in round one, maybe he makes some sense starting there. But as okay, we're going to send this guy and he's going to lead us to a playoffs, win a Super Bowl, that's not who he is at this point in his NFL career. So for Miami, what you're looking for is a reliable backup quarterback. And there are some potential ones that are certainly worth monitoring. So let's go player by player here. Tyrod Taylor, if you want someone who can move, and I think is a high-end backup, I like him. Jacoby Brissett, kind of in a similar mold. Both of those guys probably not going to be back with their current teams. They might want a fresh change of pace. They're going to have interest there. C.J. Beathard exists. Brian Hoyer knows the Dolphins fairly well. The Brian Flores-Patriots connection there. That fits the lesser version of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and by lesser I mean significantly lesser. Teddy Bridgewater could be a trade or cut candidate. All five of these names, by the way, mentioned by the Miami Herald. He's expensive in a trade, but we'll see what happens with Bridgewater going forward. In the end for Fitzpatrick, I think he leaves the Miami Dolphins. Not because the Dolphins don't want him, period, but because he's going to get probably more money and at least the opportunity to get a bigger role elsewhere for at least 2021. Maybe he wants to complete the AFC East cycle and go for the Patriots and start there for a year or something. So if you can bring him back and he's cheap, heck yeah, sign me up. He is a fantastic veteran, great backup quarterback. But for Miami, your priority is Tua, not necessarily making sure Fitzpatrick is your backup quarterback. So if the money and role work out, awesome. Otherwise, maybe not the route that those sides should end up going. So you guys can vote for me now. Should the Miami Dolphins bring back and re-sign Ryan Fitzpatrick? Type in Y for yes, they should, or you can type in N for no. I think in a bubble, the answer is yes. I think from a practical standpoint, for what Fitzpatrick wants, probably ends up being no. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Let's go to Teddy Bridgewater now here. Interesting notes coming out of the Boston Globe and also from The Athletic. So Ben Volen of the Globe says the Panthers are likely to move on because they want to do something bold at the quarterback spot. Meanwhile, The Athletic throws in this nugget. The 49ers called about Teddy Bridgewater because they were interested in him as a backup quarterback. That one's interesting, in large part because of the contract structure for Teddy Bridgewater. He's due $18 million by his new team if you were traded. $17 million base salary, $1 million in workout and per game bonuses. Now, I don't think there are really any NFL teams that are going to pay Teddy Bridgewater $18 million to be a backup. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I think he was fine as a starter for Carolina. He wasn't a disaster, but he also just wasn't of the high-end playmaking quarterback that I think Carolina is heavily searching for right now. Now, as part of this article with the Boston Globe, there were 4 teams that they mentioned as potential fits and interest potentially for Teddy Bridgewater. The Niners, who again we mentioned have called them apparently. The New Orleans Saints, yes, if you wanted to bring back Teddy Bridgewater, if Drew Brees retires and you don't trust Winston or Hill, that actually could make some sense there. The Dolphins, which again was also mentioned by the Miami Herald, that could be a fit, not probably as a trade, but if he's cut, I think the Dolphins could have interest there. And the Falcons were also mentioned, which I find pretty interesting. I don't think any of those four teams, outside of maybe the Saints, but also probably not because they're tight on cap space, would have any interest in paying Bridgewater $18 million to be a backup. And I guess if you want him to start, okay, I guess that's fine, but none of those teams should start Bridgewater over their current quarterbacks, except again for maybe the Saints. So if he's a backup, be a cut or trade, it's not going to be in Carolina. So where will he play? Where will Teddy Bridgewater play in 2021? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Leaning right now towards it not being Carolina, but he can play in the NFL. We know that worst case, he's probably the best backup quarterback in the NFL. So make your predictions. Where will Teddy Bridgewater play in 2021? It is almost St. Patrick's Day, so if you're looking for some St. Patrick Day themed gear available, go over to chatsports.com/St. Patrick's. Do not worry, that link will be in the comments and it will be in the description. The Seahawks, a natural fit there, of course, for the green, but they got them for all 32 NFL teams. They are available at chatsports.com/St. Patrick's. And don't worry, the link will be in the comments and in the description, so all you guys got to do is click and go shop. Perfect in case you're able to do anything this St. Patrick's Day, and of course in the future, that way you can dress up appropriately for the themed day and still rep your favorite NFL team in the process. Let's talk now 17-game season here for the NFL. Peter King reports that a 17-game season is highly likely for 2021. Not a huge surprise. This has been, again, relatively expected here. The league calendar, King reports, by the way, is set to be moved back a week. No extra bye week added. That means the Super Bowl occurs on February 13th next year, hypothetically speaking. On top of that, Peter King also mentions that the AFC is likely to host the extra game in 2021. Now, they'll rotate AFC then NFC, AFC then NFC. It's also fairly weird because the crossover games are not like as patterned as you might think. Like you could think, oh, well, maybe they'll just put the East teams this year, the North teams against the North teams. Not what they would be doing. So we do know, though, what the matchups would be. So let's go matchup by matchup here, right? It is the AFC hosting. So NFC East taking on the AFC East. Washington at Buffalo. Giants at Dolphins. Cowboys at Patriots. Eagles at Jets. This is ordered, of course, by where the teams finish. The number one seed in the NFC East. It's the number one seed in the AFC East. Moving on now here. Seahawks at Steelers. Pretty intriguing. Rams at the Baltimore Ravens. Cardinals at Browns. Niners at the Bengals there. So moving on here. The Saints at the Titans. Kind of intriguing depending on what the quarterback situation looks like for New Orleans. Bucks at the Colts. Oh, Brady against the Colts. That's a fun one right there. The Panthers at the Texans. And then the Falcons at the Jags. So potentially could be Trevor Lawrence against Matt Ryan at quarterback. The Packers at the Chiefs. I think the best one of this group. That's an awesome game. That one, I promise you, will be hyped as a potential Super Bowl preview. The Bears at the Raiders, call it the Khalil Mack revenge game. The Vikings at the Chargers. And then the Lions at the Broncos, which exists. Not the most sexy matchup, if we're being honest there.